Namaste everyone. In today's video, we're going to focus on Muni Patanjali's Yoga Sutra 3.51. Now in this particular Yoga Sutra, Muni Patanjali is helping us to understand one more temptation or ensnarement that we need to be careful of. And this particular one is not a normal one, but is initiated by those known as semi-gods or people in positions of supernatural power. So let's take a good look at this sutra, start breaking it up word by word and understanding what it's trying to communicate and how to understand it a little bit better. So the sutra itself goes, Sthaniyupanimantrane Sangha karanam Punaranishta Prasangat. Alright, so this is the sutra itself. Now let's get into the meanings of each of the words and start understanding what exactly it's saying. The first word over here is sthani. Now sthani is a very interesting word because sthan means a place. So a sthani is a person who is manning a particular place or is in charge of a particular place, or is very associated with a particular place or position. So that is sthani. Then coming to the next word, we have upanimantran. Now upanimantran is also very interesting because nimantran as the word itself means an invitation. So this is commonly used even in the Hindi language. When we're inviting somebody, we say, we're going to give them a nimantran, which means an invitation. Now upanimantran means the highest invitation. So upa always indicates something that's of the highest regard. So upanimantran means the highest and the greatest form of invitation. Then coming to the next word, we have Sangha. Now Sangha over here particularly means doing something with, but over here it means attachment. So being attached to something or having a Sangha with it or for it. Then coming to the next word, we have Smaya. Now smaya is a word which has a slightly negative connotation. It refers to a kind of conceit or some kind of, not a very clear conscience in that sense. So it can really mean conceit, vanity, self-aggrandizement in that sense, just thinking you're amazing. And I think it's not wrong to think you're amazing, but if you think like everybody else is a bit stupid and you're the only one who is fantastic, then that could be a little bit of an issue, but that is smaya. Then coming to the next word in this sutra, we have akarana. So akarana means elimination, removing something, discarding something. So is not, and karana of course means doing something or the cause of something. So akarana means discarding it. Alright. Then coming to the next word over here, we have punaha. Now punaha, again, very interesting word because punaha means again. It's a word very commonly used which basically indicates that something has happened before and now it is happening again. Alright, so that is punaha. Then the next word is Anishta. Now Anishta is again very interesting here because it's talking about undesirable. So something that is not that desirable, it's not good for us, it's going to be harmful. So anishtha, which means not desirable. And then coming to the next word, which is prasanga. And prasanga over here indicates the occurrence of or the eventuality on account of something. So prasanga is indicating that on account of this or as an eventuality of this, and then it's going to tell us what's going to happen. But that is basically prasanga. Now, these are all the meanings of the words, and let's take a moment now to understand what is being indicated. So the sutra is telling us that there are going to be certain special invitations or the highest invitations from somebody who is a sthani. So sthani is somebody in a position of power that is responsible for that space. So something like minor gods or semi-gods that are controlling certain realms of the earth or that are responsible for certain powers. And this is, I know for a lot of us this might sound like too fantastical maybe, because it's talking about semi-gods, etc. But I think what essentially begins to happen is when a person is reaching goals like omnipotence, omniscience, you're attracting the highest powers possible in this entire universe, and therefore you probably are going to encounter some beings, some elements which are too fantastical for us to even imagine right now. But therefore in Indian, systems of worship and across the world, really, there are all different kinds of, forms of divinity and different types of gods that are worshipped for different things. Especially, I think, if you're looking at pagan cultures, or pagan cultures as sometimes we call them, they look at everything as having divinity in it, similar to Hinduism and Indian tradition, where we look at literally the rock and you think that has divinity in it. You look at the sea and you consider it there to be like a sea god, etc. So these are all minor gods controlling different realms. And so these gods are now coming in contact with you because you are also, or the yog sadhak rather, is becoming really, really powerful. So think about it this way, when you professionally start to level up in your life a little bit, you start to do certain things, you're putting yourself out there, you've climbed the ladders in a certain way, what begins to happen is there are some incredible people who are already at the top in the places of power that you are aspiring towards. And those people might notice you because you're making all those moves. And they might notice you and they might approach you for certain opportunities, or they might get in touch with you. And that's exactly what's happening here. The yogi is now rising so high up in his facilities, abilities, and strengths that he's now attracting people he could not even imagine. I don't even know if they're exactly people or if they're just semi-gods, but essentially just supernatural beings that normally we would not encounter. But because the yog sadhak has reached such a deep level of movement upwards in the yog sadhana, he or she actually now comes in contact with these kind of beings who start to make certain invitations or offers to them, say either for collaboration, other reasons. There could be like endless reasons why they would want to connect with you. And these are not like any kind of evil entities. These are like genuinely powerful semi-gods that control certain realms of the earth. And they're just like, wow, we want to get in touch with this yog sadhak who's doing so well on the path and is almost coming up to our level, So that is what it's about in the initial part. But as we go deeper in, what we're being told by Muni Patanjali is all that is great, but if you get too attached to their invitations, or if you get too attached to what they want you to do and you don't focus on your own path, what is going to happen is you're going to just fall back again into the trap of ensnarement, attachment, and that's it. Your final goal of Kaivalya remains too far to achieve because you've again kind of made yourself available to something that's powerful and you got enticed by it and you slip back into an old pattern. So that's why what is really, really important in this case is that a yog sadhak who is coming at this level should have really mastered vairagya to such a high degree of detachment that even with such amazing invitations and offers from people really, really high up, this is some next level of high up kind of a position, from these kind of entities as well, if you receive such collaboration invites or for whatever, like they might want to give you gifts or shower you with appreciation, if you get trapped by that and you say yes, thank you so much, I'm amazing, let us do whatever, through that it will prevent you from going into the next level, because then that's it, right? You're so enamored by what they have to offer that you forgot the goal that you were working towards. And that happens a lot of times. It happens to just normal humans. It happens to us, right? Like if somebody really high up in the professional space reaches out to you, offers you something, tells you you're amazing and wants to work with you, first of all, it's fantastic. But if you have an idea of your own or like a startup or something that you want to work on, it's like, are you going to get enticed by their offers, or are you really going to work on the idea, on the passion that you have and move in that direction? So it's like a real question mark of what what do you value? What is important to you? And how will you use that and keep moving forward? So I think this sutra is like a very timely sort of warning almost, or like just a heads up in a way, telling the yoga sadhak that look, when you get powers of omnipotence and omniscience, that's like extremely superhuman. It's not going to be just the regular stuff you've dealt with before, because people like us were attached to our homes, our cars, our businesses, our lives. But a yoga sadhak at that level is risking getting attached to omnipotence, the knowledge of everything, risking getting attached to omniscience. That is some very different level of power and totally different realm of accomplishment. So what the sutra is saying is to be mindful, to beware that such kind of invitations, collaborations, opportunities will come, and they will keep you there and keep you trapped in the same realm that you were trying to leave. So this is important because considering that the yoga sadhak in this case is a spiritual aspirant who wants to get out of the cycle of birth and death, their fundamental goal will not be achieved if they continue to stay in the cycle of birth and death, saying, yes, please give me accolades, I know I'm amazing, right? So it really just depends on kind of how the yoga sadhak perceives this entire situation and how they are reacting to it. I'd also like to add that the commentators have mentioned in the book that this is not just something that Hindu yogis or Indian yogis are experiencing. This is across the globe, across different religions, whether we look at Islam or Zoroastrianism or Christianity. If you really read into the lives and times of their, spiritual predecessors and all the people, even within Jainism and Buddhism, if you really look at their stories, you will hear about the vibhutis, powers, what they were able to do and what they had to overcome to really become the enlightened beings that they eventually became. So this is, I would say, and even the commentators are saying, this is not limited to the realm of yoga, Hinduism, Indian tradition. It's across the board. It may be called something different. It may be in a different language. It may have different sort of stories associated with it. But essentially, the fact is the same, that spiritual people on this kind of a path, like highly developed spiritual people, actually have to face these kind of challenges and then move forward, move away from them, and continue on their journey to the end goal of realization that they were working towards. So it is something to consider for all of us. I know at the outset we may not be convinced, we may not understand this, but these are deep parts of the Yoga Sutra, and we just really have to understand it, accept, be humble, probably we don't know everything, and study it as best we can, and then continue to live our modern hybrid yogi lifestyles. Unless, of course, you're interested in going down this deep and becoming a spiritual yoga sadhak in the real sense, then that's entirely up to you. But for most of us who are choosing to stay in the modern world, be these modern hybrids, we just kind of have to understand it, respect it for what it is, give it the reverence it deserves, and then continue on our experiential yoga journey. So that is all about this particular Yoga Sutra 3.51. I hope you've enjoyed this video, you've been able to understand it. And if you have, please don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. Drop your thoughts, comments, and suggestions in the comments box below. Don't forget to share this video with your friends and family, especially those that might be studying the Yoga Sutras or studying yoga philosophy. And also don't forget to subscribe to our channel because we release new videos every single week. Now, we can't wait to see you in the next video or in our next class, course, or workshop, the links to which are in the description. So until then, keep practicing, stay safe, and we're going to see you very soon. Namaste.